Alright, what is up everybody? Welcome to Time to Game Inc. This is Axe0316.
And this is GamerJunkyJoe.
The artist formerly known as Fizzantine, for anyone who remembers our old videos, the chopping block, combat chat, and all that good stuff.
Oh yeah, man, I'm back.
And we're here today to talk about a very, very important issue in terms of the internet and a lot of big stuff going on. Before we do that, I want to mention something really quick. I'm now affiliated with this channel, the Time to Game Inc. channel. Really happy to be on board here, and we got a lot of really cool stuff planned for you guys in the near future, so stay tuned for that.
Yes, please do. It's going to be awesome.
Alright, so the issue we're here to talk about today is, of course, the bills that are in our U.S. government right now. We have Bill S.968, which is the Protect IP Act, which is in the Senate right now, and the Stop Online Piracy Act, which is in the House of Representatives right now. And these both are bills that are basically threatening to change the way the internet works, and they're being put onto the floor of Congress under the veil of we need to stop piracy. But we all know that the fact that just by S.978, these bills are always broadly worded, and they always do more harm than good. And, Joe, I know we did our video on S.978 and talk a little bit about how we raised some attention about that issue.
Well, pretty much it was, if I remember correctly, that bill was all about just them attacking pretty much streaming gaming content, if I remember correctly. Just anything like has to do with like us, which we are all about gaming and stuff. We upload videos about gaming. They were thinking about just blocking all that, which affected, of course, what we do for a living is YouTube. It would block anything that we had to do with YouTube as far as gaming and, anything that has to do with that content. And as far as, of course, like, movies, stuff like that, which, of course, that's all piracy, and we don't promote piracy whatsoever. Right. Anything that we do is, of course, legal. We own a copy of it or whatever. We're just wanting to share it with, of course, the world. But that's what that bill pretty much. And this one is just, this new bill that has just now came to attention that we're talking about today is just pretty much you're going to have a group of people, which, of course, I've read a little bit about. They're going to, train, I believe, a team of 24 special agents, in this one room to pretty much just be, watchers over the internet to make sure nobody's doing any of this stuff and just, blocking everything known to man if it comes close to, hey, they're uploading something about this game and stuff and showing videos on it and stuff. We can't have that. So, we can't have this. I mean, that's just, I don't know. If we own it, okay, if we spent our own money, we bought it and stuff, why not? Why can't we share it? It's our own. It's not like we're going out here downloading it off the internet using a torrent site or something like that. I mean, I just think they're just kind of pushing it way too far.
Yeah, exactly. The thing is, when S.978 first came to everyone's attention, people couldn't believe it. But the fact is, the Protect IP Act and the Stop Online Piracy Act, these bills are both worse than S.978 because now it could be anything you upload to the internet will count as streaming, even if you're not making it available. If you upload a gaming playthrough, if you do a cover song on YouTube, if you review a DVD or a book and just give your thoughts about it, if you use a picture you got off Google Images or a quote from a movie, you could be charged with a felony, and that is a charge that can deny you employment and basically ruin your life. That is how bad this is getting. And here's what the real kicker is. The bill is very broadly worded, and as Joe was just alluding to, the bill, what it does is, it like he was talking about the people in the room monitoring the internet, it's really about the government overstepping their boundaries and trying to control things that they can't control. And the problem here is, this all started when lobbyists from the Motion Picture Association of America came to our U.S. government and said, hey, we're losing money, people are streaming our movies online, we want you to do something about this. And a lobbyist is basically someone who goes to the government and says, hey, I'm going to represent this company for this cause. And really what they do is they bribe our elected officials. They say, hey, if you pass this bill, we'll give you X amount of money for your re-election term. And that's what's going on. It's sheer and utter corruption. And here's something, Joe, I could not believe this when I read it. But I read last week about the hearing for the Protect IP Act in the Senate. They were having a hearing about this, and not one member of our Congress or the Motion Picture Association representative who was present there, none of them, and keep in mind they're trying to pass a bill that will change the internet as we know it, none of them even knew what a DNS was.
And that right there, my friends, just shows you that is pathetic.
That is pathetic.
But, it's just like, I don't know, it kind of makes me wonder who we are putting in office, sort of.
That's
If they do not go in there and know what the heck they're talking about, or anything, wanting to screw up things for everybody, then what the hell are they doing in that position? Why are they being like a country leader, one of our representatives for? I mean, come on now.
Exactly, and one of the things that a lot of people don't really get about this bill is this bill can also stop free speech. For example, and DSP alluded to this in his video. For example, let's say that you purchase a product, and a lot of people will review products on YouTube and talk about what they think of it. If a company sees you on YouTube talking about their product, giving away information about it, and you say something negative, and you're honest, even if you're honest, and you say something negative about the product, they can basically, hold up a red flag and scream, hey, this person is streaming information about our product, and they have no right to do it. And then not only can you get in trouble, which is ridiculous, but YouTube itself may be blacklisted, because one of the major parts of this bill that makes it so ridiculous is that it demands that websites that are guilty of streaming online content, and keep in mind these are the people that think doing a cover song on YouTube is streaming content. If a website is guilty of streaming, as they call it, that website can be blacklisted, which means it won't show up in any search engine. That is mind-blowingly ridiculous, and that's why we need to take action ASAP.
Yeah, they might as well just pull out the Constitution and just piss all over it if they're going to do that. I mean, because and of course the Bill of Rights, they might as well just that's why I'm going to say the Bill of Rights. They might as well just take that out, just piss all over it and just make up a new one. Because if they're going to interfere with our freedom of speech, then what the heck is that Bill of Rights being in there for? That's one of our rights as Americans, is the freedom of speech.
Exactly.
So, if they're going to do that, if they're going to interfere with our freedom of speech, then they might as well just tear that up and throw it in the trash.
Exactly, and that's really what they're doing, is trying to trample on our rights. Because, when I made the original video about S.968 a couple weeks ago, I had a couple people send me private messages, and they said, well, Axe, you don't have to worry about this bill because it's unconstitutional. Our government can't pass it. And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, well, Barack Obama just had a U.S. citizen assassinated without trial, not to mention the fact that the Patriot Act, a piece of legislation that was passed by our elected officials, gives the government the right to tap phones, the right to read private chats, the right to intercept mail. So, what Joe and I are saying here today is, we can't just relax about this and say, oh, it's unconstitutional, this isn't going to pass, because these bills could very well pass. But the good news about this is, and there is a bit of good news, is that we are putting up, a fight against this, because, of course, the major players in the internet world, I'm talking about YouTube, Twitter, Yahoo, Reddit, Facebook, AOL, eBay, Google, and a lot of other websites, they have been adamant talking about how this bill is ridiculous. It's not going to solve anything. In fact, it's going to make a lot of things worse. It's going to destroy so much business, destroy so many companies. It's gonna be horrible, and they've been adamant about it. And also, there are actually two politicians who are really on our side in this. Number one is Senator Ron Wyden, and even though this bill has been passed in the Senate Judiciary Committee, it still hasn't been technically passed in the Senate completely because Senator Wyden put a hold on this bill. And he has said that during next week's discussion of the bill, that he is very well threatening to filibuster this bill. And in case anyone doesn't know, a filibuster is basically when you attempt to literally talk a bill to death. They have to give you permission to speak, and once you get up, they can't tell you to sit down until you choose to. So Senator Wyden will basically get up there and he will talk the bill to death until basically the other members of the Senate say no mas, and no progress is made passing this bill. And I think it's good that we have, some people on our side here.
Yeah, definitely. And not only that, man, could you imagine the countersuits that are going to come, not only from YouTube, but other companies as well? You know what I mean?
Oh, definitely. It's going to be a huge mess. And in case anyone wants to help out with that cause, see, these days, the way a filibuster works is, these days, if you want to do a filibuster, you don't even have to speak, really. You can just say, hey, I filibuster. And they can't tell you to sit down. They just have to wait or basically say, okay, we quit. But if everyone will go to stopcensorship.org, you can actually submit your name to a petition of people who oppose this bill, and Senator Wyden will read your name while he filibusters in an attempt to basically talk this bill down. And that's huge. And the other thing, I'm really happy about this, is we actually have a man in this country who's running for president, and you won't hear about him on television because the government doesn't like him, so they black him out. But he has been against internet censorship. He has voted to shrink the government. He has voted to shrink the government to the extent that he is the kind of politician who says the government should not do anything that's not specifically allowed in the Constitution, and he even proposes eliminating the federal income tax so that we can starve the government of its money to shrink it. And that man is Ron Paul. And I think that a lot of people who realize that these bills, like SOPA and like the Protect IP Act, and even like S.978, a lot of these bills are just facades, like the Patriot Act. They say they're going to do one thing, but they're really just to help the government gain power. And Ron Paul is a guy who's for shrinking the government. And, Joe, I think that's very valuable for us to have in this day and age.
Oh, most likely, just to have someone of that, caliber, just to step up and say, hey, step up to our government and say, hey, this is not right, and, I'm going to stand up for the American people. And this man is also running for president, so, he has a lot of things going for him. I know in 2012, this man, without a shadow of a doubt, is going to get my vote, and I will state that here on YouTube. I'm not ashamed to, but, he deserves it. I mean, I believe what he says. This man just seems like he's going to step up for the country and do what he says.
Definitely. And we want to remind everyone, and this is, of course, only applies to the people who are 18 or older. If you do plan to vote for Dr. Paul, you need to make sure that you're registered. Some states are open states, which means you don't have to have your party affiliation to vote in the Republican primaries. Some states are closed states, which means you have to be registered as Republican to vote in the primaries. So everyone make sure to do that in advance, because sometimes you have to be ready for a few weeks in advance. But, like I said, we have Senator Wyden, who's going to filibuster this bill, and he has his petition at stopcensorship.org. We have Ron Paul, who's not only is he against internet censorship, he's against the Patriot Act, the federal income tax. He's against basically everything the government does to try to control us. And also, there's going to be a massive call-in this week. And what that means is, we have had a lot of success as, as the people, really, of fighting these bills so far. A lot of phone calls have been made, and a lot of letters have been written, a lot of emails have been sent, and people are telling their senators and their representatives, you cannot pass this bill, or either of these bills. They're too broadly worded, they're deceiving, they're not going to accomplish their goal, they're going to do way more harm than good. And there have been a lot of calls, a lot of calls have been made. Unfortunately, the way our government works is they don't really listen to anyone but themselves. They think, well, the people who elected us think that this is a bad idea, but, the lobbyists are paying us, so we're going to do what we want. So, this week, at AmericanCensorship.org, you can get information on this. A massive phone-in campaign is being organized in which people are just going to start calling in at all hours of the day, even during the discussion, non-stop, one call after the other, telling how we oppose this bill. And I think that's something that we should all look into, Joe.
Yeah, definitely. So no, I mean, right now we have the have the right to voice our opinion. Right now we can use our freedom of speech. So I encourage people to call in, disrupt this horrible, horrible bill at all possible, because this is nonsense.
It really is, and like we're saying, we're not trying to be alarmists here, but this is something that could really, really pass. And like I said, the problem here is, and this may just be me, because I'm Joe, you and I were both young people and we're part of this internet age. But when it comes right down to it, Ron Paul's philosophy, and I'll go back to talking about him because his philosophy has always been, we shouldn't depend on the federal government to take care of things. He talks about how, some people were saying that we needed an amendment saying we needed to balance the budget, and he's like, no, we don't need more laws. We need less laws and people to take more responsibility. If the Motion Picture Association of America is losing money, they need to change their business model. They don't need the government to pass a law to protect them and screw everybody else over. So, those corporations can make more money. They need to change their business model.
I totally agree with that. I mean, if you're worried about your stuff getting out there, then maybe somehow, some way you should make up, some type of, program or just what have you,
yeah, exactly.
to eliminate that.
Exactly. Look at case in point. Look at Windows Live games. Like in the last generation of consoles, we had PC games, and Windows was finding that people were able to rip their games really easily. They put it on a torrent site, you go there and click on it, download it, and then 5 minutes later, you have the game for free. So what, Windows started doing is they introduced Windows Live, which means if you download a game, well, you may download that game off a torrent site, but the way they have it set up is, unless you can enter a product key and sign in on Windows Live, you can't save your game, you can't get any gamer points, you can't do any online play, so basically, you're screwed. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
just how, I'm sorry, I accidentally interrupt you or anything, but I just wanted to point this out right quick. Just like how now, almost in like big games like EA games, I've noticed with Battlefield 3, that just came out. They did it with Battlefield Bad Company 2, and able to get the VIP stats or able to play online or what have you. You have to enter a code, which gives you, of course, the unlock to play online. And what it does, it keeps that copy of that game genuine, and that way nobody's out here, like, for instance, you go and say I go to GameStop and I want to trade in like 50,000 games and stuff and just keep on buying new games. What this company, especially like EA's trying to do, is try to eliminate that. You buy their product, they want you to keep it, or if you want to be able to play online or whatever, you have to purchase another code. They want you to stay, true to the brand, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And we see this all the time these days. Everyone always says with anything, they're like, oh, we'll just go to the federal government, they'll take care of us, or they'll do this or they'll do that. Well, the problem is now, we're saying here, the federal government has gotten too much power. And like we were just talking about with the video game industry, even the music industry is taking initiative to stop, the problem of piracy. Look at Spotify. People, and these companies are realizing, as this new age comes around, we have to change our business model. But apparently, the Motion Picture Association of America didn't get that memo. They're still thinking, well, we're too lazy to, spend any money adapting to new threats to our business. So instead of adapting and acting like a real business, we're just going to go to the government and, send corrupt lobbyists to bribe them to, put legislation that doesn't make any sense on the fast track to being passed into law that is going to screw over 99% of the population.
All right. And
yeah, we also want to mention here the fact that for those of you outside of the U.S., you may not know this, but you will be affected by these bills as well. If either of these bills pass, Google and YouTube and all these sites that are used around the globe, guess what? America is one of, their biggest, one of the countries they get the most attention from, so they're going to have to change their business model drastically, which means you will suffer too.
yeah, definitely. I mean, you're talking about having as far as YouTube goes and everything, talking about having to change pretty much the whole concept of what YouTube is based on altogether. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
And it's like, you just can't upload. If this bill is passed, you just can't upload wherever you want to. They're going to have like a list of guidelines that you have to follow in able to do it. And if you go outside those, well, like I said, you can get in really, really, really big trouble.
Yeah, the problem is, well, there's several problems. The first problem is the Motion Picture Association of America doesn't know how to adapt to threats like a real business. The second problem is our government is full of, the majority of them are complete idiots. Like, they're trying to change the internet, and they don't even know what DNS means. And, yeah, it's ridiculous. And the other problem is they think they can, pull the wool over our eyes like they did with the Patriot Act. The Patriot Act, they said, oh, there's threats of terror out there, so we're going to protect you by tapping phones and reading emails so we can see if there's any suspicious activity. No, they just wanted to trample on your right to privacy. And now they're trampling on your free speech. Because like I was saying earlier with Dr. Paul, they black him out from TV. The way he's got such a huge following and he's a front runner in the elections is because of people on the internet. They talk about him. That's how the word spreads. And we've always said, the internet's not censored, but it's about to be. So, like I said, stopcensorship.org, americancensorship.org, ronpaul.com. Let's go to these websites. Let's really get things going. Let's contact our members of government. Let's get phone calls, emails, letters. Do anything you can, because this legislation could pass, but we need to tell our government that we want the internet to stay how it is, and this is one of our rights, our right to free speech and the internet, that we're not going to hand over to them.
Exactly, I agree 100%. If you want to stand up for freedom of speech, then by all means, stand up to this bill.
Definitely, and we're going to go ahead and wrap it up here, but if anyone has any questions of what they can do to help or specifics about this bill, just leave us a comment, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can.
Yeah, we appreciate you guys for listening, and by all means, just stop by our channel, Time to Gaming, and we'll be uploading content daily. So thanks for your support, guys.
Thanks, guys.